Alright, this will be Wild at Heart by John Eldridge, page 54, Posers. Adam knows now that he has blown it, that something has gone wrong within him, that he is no longer what he was meant to be. Adam doesn't just make a bad decision, he gives away something essential to his nature. He's married now, his strength is fallen, and he knows it. Then what happens? Adam hides. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Genesis 3:10. You don't need a course in psychology to understand men. Understand that verse, let its implications sink in, and then men around you will suddenly come into focus. We are hiding, every last one of us, well aware that we too are not what we're meant to be, desperately afraid of exposure, terrified of being seen for what we are and are not. We have run off into the bushes. We hide in our office, at the gym, behind the newspaper, and mostly behind our personality. Most of what you encounter when you meet a man is a facade, an elaborate fig leaf, a brilliant disguise. Driving back from dinner one night, a friend and I were just sort of shooting the breeze about life and marriage and work. As the conversation deepened, he began to admit some of the struggles he was having. Then he came out with this confession. The truth is, John, I feel like I'm just bluffing my way through life, and that someday soon I'll be exposed as an imposter. And that someday soon I'll be exposed as an imposter. I was so surprised. This is a popular, successful guy who most people like the moment they meet him. He's bright, articulate, handsome, and athletic. He's married to a beautiful woman, has a great job, drives a new truck, and lives in a big house. There's nothing on the outside that says not really a man, but inside it's another story. It always is. Before I ever mentioned my nightmare about being on stage with nothing to say, another friend shared with me that he too is having a recurring nightmare. It involves a murder in the FBI. Apparently in his dream he has killed someone and buried the body out back of his house. But the authorities are closing in. He knows that any moment they'll discover the crime scene and he'll be caught. The dream always ends just before he is found out. He wakes in a cold sweat. Any day now I'll be found out. Is a pretty common theme among us guys. Truth be told, most of us are faking our way through life. We pick only those battles we are sure to win, only those adventures we are sure to handle, only those beauties we are sure to rescue. Let me ask the guys who don't know much about cars, how do you talk to your mechanic? I know a bit about fixing cars, but not much, and when I'm around my mechanic I feel like a weenie. So what do? I fake it, I pose. I assume a sort of casual, laid-back manner I imagine the guys use when hanging around the lunch truck, and I wait for him to speak. Looks like it might be your fuel mixture, he says. Yeah, I thought it might be that. When was the last time you had your car rebuilt? Oh, I don't know. It's probably been years. I'm guessing he's talking about my carburetor, and I have no idea if it's ever been rebuilt. Well, we better do it now or you're going to end up on some country road miles from nowhere, and then you'll have to do it yourself. Yeah, I say casually, as if I don't want to be bothered having to rebuild that thing, even though I know I wouldn't have the slightest idea where to begin. All I have is a whistle, remember? I tell him to go ahead, and he sticks out his hand, a big greasy hand that says, I know tools real well, and what am I supposed to do? I'm dressed in a coat and a tie because I'm supposed to give a talk at some woman's luncheon, but I can't say, gee, I'd rather not get my hands dirty. So I take his hand and pump it extra hard. Or how about you fellas who work in the corporate world? How do you act in the boardroom when the heat is on? What do you say when the big boss is riding you hard? Jones, what the devil is going on down there in your division? You guys are 3 weeks late on that project. Do you try to pass the buck? Actually, sir, we got the plans over to McCormick's department to bid the job weeks ago. Do you feign ignorance? Really? I had no idea. I'll get right on that. Maybe you just weasel your way out of it. That job's a slam dunk, sir. We'll have it done this week. Years ago, I did a tour of duty in the corporate world. The head man was a pretty intimidating guy. Many heads rolled in his office. My plan was basically to try to avoid him at all costs. When I did run into him in the hallway, even in friendly conversation, I always felt about 10 years old. How about sports? A few years ago, I volunteered to coach my son's baseball team. There was a mandatory meeting that all coaches needed to attend before the season to pick up equipment and listen to a briefing. Our recreation department brought in a retired professional pitcher, a local boy, to give us all a pep talk. The posing that went on was incredible. Here's a bunch of balding dads with beer bellies sort of swaggering around, talking about their own baseball days, throwing out comments about pro players like they knew them personally, and spitting. I kid you not. Their attitude, that's a tame word, was so thick I needed waiters. It was the biggest bunch of posers I've ever met outside of church. Oh, that same sort of thing goes on Sunday mornings. It's just a different set of rules. Dave runs into Bob in the church lobby. Both are wearing their happy faces, though neither is happy at all. Hey Bob, how are you? Bob is actually furious at his wife and ready to leave her, but he says, "Great, just great, Dave. The Lord is good." Dave, on the other hand, hasn't believed in the goodness of God for years, ever since his daughter was killed. Yep, God is good all the time. I'm just so glad to be here, praising the Lord. Me too. Well, I'll be praying for you. I would love to see a tally of the number of prayers actually prayed against the number of prayers promised. I bet it's about 1 in 1,000. And I'll be praying for you too. Well, gotta go. You take care. Take care is our way of saying I'm done with this conversation and I want to get out of here, but I don't want to appear rude, so I'll say something that sounds meaningful and caring. But in truth, Dave doesn't give a rip about Bob. Dang. That's finishing up there on page 57. So that was page 54 to 57. Posers.